Hello and welcome to episode 1022 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, March 4th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, I still want baseball resolved and a lockout lifted, but all things considered, not too bad. We're going to be just talking shortstop today, a remarkably deep position. Even when you pull out all the guys we talked about at second base, this still leaves tons. Like, it's as deep as people talk about, doing the rundown to kind of see who we're going to put on the list. It checks out. The depth that everyone talks about is absolutely legit. I mean, I knew that beforehand, but just looking at it again, I'm like, that is incredible.
It's unreal just how deep the position is. For those who haven't been playing fantasy for super long, right? If you've only been playing fantasy over like the last 7 to 10 years,
you've been spoiled.
Yeah, we used to be fighting over guys who were going to hit 220 with 7 home runs.
Yep.
At the end of a draft,
because they play every day because they're glove. And
it was such a defense first position, and we're just amazingly spoiled, and I love it. I love being able to pull from that pool, but
and there's a lot of different ways to play it because of that. Because you do have guys that are eligible at other positions, so that will cut into it somewhat. But again, even with that, you can just keep going down the names and being like, this guy. So let's just dive right in. Our number one guy is somebody we did talk about at second base in Trey Turner. He's joined by Fernando Tatis and Bo Bichette as, just the uber studs. They're all top 5 picks. They've all been, in the last month in draft champions, Turner and Tatis have gone 1 in drafts and Bichette's gone 2. They're cream of the crop. That's their min picks, by the way, 1, 1, and 2. Their actual average pick is 1.6, 2.2, and 5. So 5 for Bichette. So you got these 3 guys here. Trey Turner was your guy last year. You were getting him at 8. That still seems crazy that we were able to do that, but that was awesome. But now he is the bona fide number 1. There are guys, Tatis, Ramirez. There's a few other guys that do hit number 1, but Trey Turner is the highest guy taken consistently at number 1. You have to have a top 6 pick to get these guys. Although the max for Bo Bichette in the last month is 9. I wish I was in that draft where Bo Bichette fell to 9. You said that your KDS has just been 1 to whatever, right?
Yeah, it's 1 to 15. I really want those early first round picks. One, you get that foundational piece like a Turner
with the speed too that everyone craves so much.
And then I prefer what is going to be available to me in the back half of the second, early third.
And that's probably more key, to be honest, is to map out
absolutely
your second and third more so than that first round.
Yeah, rather than what is available. Because you get hit in the middle of that third round, and there's a drop off between the end of the second, early third, and middle to back of third, in terms of just overall talent. And so, if I can start off a draft with Turner, Mullins, and either one of the premier closers or a premier starter, I feel really, really good about the start of my draft.
Especially with your speed component, then you're looking at minimum 40 steals, you'd think 20 from each, with the upside about approaching 60.
60, yeah,
so, which is fantastic. And then you get a big arm, like you said, either saves or starter. And I like that start. I actually ended up getting Bichette at 6 in my TGFBI. It went Turner, Tatis, Ramirez, Vlad, Soto, and then I got Bichette, and I paired him with Hader and Alonso. So I went my speed guy, my saves, and then a power stud. And I've supplemented my speed with him in the middle of the draft. But I felt really good about that trio there. I really like that. I think I covered 3 big things. Musgrove's still my ace in the 5th, so I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the builds from the front as well. I've been pretty much just going 1 to 15, 1 to 12 as well. And I'm just hoping to get an early pick. I'll draft from anywhere. You can build a team from anywhere, but I do think that front end of the draft is better. And I totally agree with you that it's more so due to the second, third rounds than it is necessarily the first. I mean, obviously the top guy is great, but the whole first round has total bona fide studs.
You and I've seen a lot, and this is just a complete aside and tangent. There is a second base run that happens like in almost every draft. Like it's like India, Lau,
Marte.
Altuve. I can't tell you how many TGFBI drafts because I look at all the boards.
Yeah.
Have like all those guys go in like consecutive picks.
No,
Usually
you're
around
dead
pick
on.
like 75, 80.
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, they didn't go in consecutive picks in mine, but India, Lau, Marte all went in the same round. Chisholm and Altuve went the round before them. And I know Chisholm has shortstop as well, but he may be better served at second base because of the depth of shortstop. So you're right, that second base run can happen there.
In my league, 10 picks. In 10 picks, we had Edman. Then 2 picks later, Polanco, Marte, Altuve, Lau went consecutively, and then India went 4 picks after that.
Imagine if you waited and you're like, I'll get one of these guys coming back, and they just go on.
It's what happened to me. I was like, it's how I ended up with Will Smith, the pitcher, in the 6th round because I was like, oh well, I'll take a closer in the 5th, and then I'll grab one of these second basemen on the way back. And none of them I mean, India lasted me. I probably could have taken India, but Will Smith just felt like too good of a value to lock up my second closer.
I've actually come around on Will Smith as especially as your second. I mean, they trusted him. I know Matzik's there, and I like Matzik, but Smith was nails in the playoffs, and that earns you so much credit. So he's going to need, he would need to be struggling into May. I mean, in a world where we actually played in April, you know what I mean? A month and a half, 2 months into the season, he'd have to be struggling, I think, to lose the job. Will Smith would. So I'm with you there. I do feel like this is an ancillary point. Obviously, we're talking shortstops, but on that second base run, if you don't have a second baseman by the 6th round, you should probably plan to get one a good bit later. I think that drop off there, because throw Cronenworth in there. Cronenworth actually lasted until the 8th in my draft, but he can go as high as that 6th round. So he's kind of a last bastion. But then it jumps down, and I ended up I didn't get in on those early ones, so I took Segura in the 12th, and I
took Segura in the 12th.
We talked about how much we love Segura, so we put our money where our mouth is, and I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, I had taken LeMahieu in the 9th, and then when Segura was sitting there in the 12th, I was like, well, LeMahieu's now becoming my all around my infield guy.
Yes.
So worked out pretty well, I think, for me. I've got I've got a team I really love a lot of the players, and I absolutely hate the way I constructed this roster. So it's likely a 4th place team.
But what did I say when you said that? Because you're like, this looks like a strong 4th place team. I'm like, so you're some variance away from competing then. Some positive variance. Couple guys overperform.
My projections have me in 1st, but
as they should, though.
Yeah, if you're using your own projections or any projection system for that matter, and kind of drafting off them, and they don't have you at 1st at the end of the draft, you really fucked up.
Well, why'd you use them? You clearly didn't believe in them.
So yeah, I mean, my projections have me in 1st, but I look at this roster and I go, oh man, this has the makings of a 4th place team. Absolutely.
That's all right though. That's all right if you kind of live in there. It's like the Rays model, right? And the A's.
It's not all right because not only have you been going behind my back and helping my wife, so has Vlad Sedler and Ruvain Guy.
Yes.
I
love it.
She has this crew,
this army, yes,
of people.
She's putting together a squad, dude.
Yeah, and she's putting together this really good team.
Hey, she didn't come to me until the 10th round. Just said, "How's it going?" I said, "You are putting together a foundation that I really like." She made her first
2 picks on her own, and then people started reaching out to her, and
she started Tucker Marte, so she got her speed component locked.
Yep.
And she went 4 straight pitchers: LeMahieu, Mountcastle, Taylor, Eovaldi. The 4 pitchers were Urias, Presley, Fried, Will Smith, and then those other 4 I said, and I was like, I love your foundation. Focus on some power bats in the middle, and you're putting together a crew. I really like where she's going.
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
But I like your team too, though. I got to be
Yeah.
honest. I do think you are putting together a nice team. But let's get back to the shortstops here.
Yes.
Tatis, shortstop, outfield. Are you drafting him like concern free in that top 3 area, or does the shoulder bother you that he didn't do anything to surgically repair it, or do you take the other angle where you're like, I'm glad he didn't get surgery because surgery is always scary no matter what, and I'll take the ups and downs with it with Tatis. How do you come out with Tatis?
I definitely am concerned. Because I mean he got hurt so often with it last year. Now he's still amazing. And if we
Yeah,
could magically say that shoulder was fine, he'd easily be the first overall pick.
yeah. And how many times when he got hurt did it look like it was going to be the end?
Oh yeah.
2 or
I
3 of
mean,
those times it was like, oh shit.
I remember guesting on a podcast, the Rotosurgeon podcast
Mm-hmm.
with Kev. And he was like, I'm gonna drop him. I'm gonna drop him. Like he's droppable. Like after I think it was after the second or third one, I can't remember.
I remember
Um,
that sort of chatter.
and I was like, you cannot drop Tatis.
It's like
What
I
if he's back
get rid of him.
next week or in 3 weeks? And like that turned out to be right, but like every time he went down, it looked like he had been hit by a truck and was
Yeah,
just like laying on the ground.
it looked
And you thought
disastrous.
this is the end. And while it was never the end, and he still went on to have an amazing season, there's just that fear that one dive, because he's not a guy who like takes it easy, right? Like
You can't play guys like that. Just they don't play half speed.
yeah, they just don't have that in them. So
No, and I don't. That doesn't bother me. It adds to the risk though.
yeah. So I have my top 3 are Turner, Ramirez, and Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
And then it is kind of a small teardrop off to Tatis Bichette.
I actually have Tatis 6. I would take Vlad, Soto, and Bichette ahead of him with Ramirez and Turner.
I don't love the way I would have to build with Vlad or Soto. We talked about this. We
I
did the
know,
Vlad episode.
I'm not too worried about it.
So I probably should be a little bit higher on Soto, but
the Vlad guy in my league, or person, I don't know if it's man or woman. I'm sorry, Bishop.
Matt, yeah, his name's Matt. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he goes Vlad Jr., DeGrom, Story. The way they got their speed: Story, Edman, Kelnick, Andres Jimenez, Gallo chips in some. I don't think they're completely out of this world in trouble with their speed. It's fine.
Yeah, and I mean the guy in my league who took Vlad at 5, Jordan Eisen from Fielder Vision Sports. He's a 18-year-old kid.
Nice.
Who's been in TGFBI since I think he was 16. He went Vlad and then Marte in the second round. So he was like, I got my power, I got
instantly
my speed. So and then then he attacked other positions. So
Bishop might have done that. Marte went the pick before him. I wonder if he would have done the same thing if Marte had been there.
There's definitely ways to do it. I just don't know that I'm going to do it at any point. Unless, I mean, if I'm at the wheel or something like that, or back end of a trap, and Vlad gets to me, maybe I could.
What's Vlad's max? He's not dropping that far ever, is he?
Oh, I'm sure he is. I haven't.
His max is 12.
Well,
which is still pretty hot. I would be drooling if I got him at 12.
We get to main events, SP start rising into that back end of the first round.
Yeah.
Where they haven't been necessarily super prevalent.
Exactly.
You might be able to get like a wheel that is a Vlad Albies.
Oh my God, I would die. I would love that.
I
would love that. Anyway, we're getting derailed off of Shortstop.
Yeah, this is our
it just happens. Podcast. It just happens. And we have somebody to talk about, so we got to stay on track. So yeah, Tatis, I'm probably looking at him at 5 or 6. Like I'm not totally out, but I don't know. I do like the shortstop outfield too, infield outfield. We love that combo. He's great. He's awesome. I'm not fully out on him or anything, but I do kind of look at others ahead of him. Bo Bichette took a fat L on him last year. I had concerns about him running. I stand by like the research there. It was just he just disproved it, right? Like I think sometimes you can have a good process and still lose because he was 8 for 13. What's that?
Story of my life. Good process, still lose. Yeah.
Right. So, he was 8 for 13 in the majors. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, and I wasn't even definitive saying like he doesn't run. I just said, I've been here before with a few prospects that ran in the minors. The two I named were Jock Peterson and George Springer. And I was like, until I see it at the majors, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious with Bo Bichette. He goes out and goes 25 for 26. So there we go. There's the proof I needed. Now I'm fully in. I trust him as a speedster. He's just a bona fide stud, right? Like he went 29, 25. Are we projecting him for anything like terribly different this year? I feel like just more of the same excellence with Bo Bichette, right?
Yeah, I think we're kind of just same. I mean, there's always growth, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, there
Bichette's a
certainly could
guy.
be.
I mean, Bichette's still super young.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, where would we see the growth from? And I don't know. I mean, I guess power. I mean,
Yeah, just continued more power because actually he went down a little bit. 186 ISO was his lowest, but this was also his first full season. The other two were small samples. But I mean, you bank for the status quo of last year with the idea knowing that he could hit 320 with like a 250 ISO, which means he'd have what would that be, a 570 slug type deal. So that'd be some nasty power coming out there. And like, yeah, there's a dream 30-30 season out there. There's upside to dream on, but even if all you get is a stone cold repeat, nobody's upset about that. That's for sure from Bichette.
I mean, the beauty is that the Bad X has him for 25 homers, 15 stolen bases, and people are gonna be like, well, that's worse than he did last year. That's a median outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like we're talking like, hey, if he does take a step forward into that 75th percentile, maybe he ends up being like, a 35-25 guy.
That'd be hot.
And like that would be really, really interesting. I mean, there's always the chance too that he regresses. I think the most likely scenario if he does regress is in the stolen base department. Where he was 25 for 26. That's just super.
That's really
hard
really
to
good.
repeat.
Yeah.
But that being said, like I don't think you can go wrong. He's like I said, he's my number 5. And depending
number 5
on
overall, just so people know.
Yeah, number 5
number
overall.
5 shortstop.
And depending on like how I'm feeling on a given day, I could take him 4 over Tatis if I'm feeling like I really don't want to deal with the potential injury issues that Tatis has.
I think that definitely makes sense. So those are the bona fide studs. You got to pretty much have a top 6 pick to get them. You might get lucky at 7, 8 randomly or 9. If you do, count your blessings and enjoy. The established studs probably include, at least one of the guys from the already discussed, which will be the next group after this, Marcus Semien. But for our purposes, it's Tim Anderson, Trevor Story, Francisco Lindor, and Xander Bogaerts. Because these are the guys we haven't talked about. They're all going in a relatively tight range, and like I said, Semien is included in that. But I just put him in the already discussed group that we're going to kind of gloss over. I'll give you a chance to speak about any of them if you want to get an extra thought in. But Tim Anderson goes at 32 on average over the last month. Trevor Story 35, Marcus Semien 45, Francisco Lindor 48, and Xander Bogaerts 50. So this is it. You don't get one of those early first round picks. And so you don't get one of those top 3 shortstops we just talked about, but you still want a premium shortstop. This is your group here. And I didn't put Wander in. I'm going to get to Wander in a minute, but it's because of what I named it. I said the established studs. He's not established yet, plain and simple. He's just not. These are 4 veterans that are excellent. 5, I'll just include Semien, 5 veterans that are excellent. Do you have a particular favorite here out of Tim Anderson, Trevor Story, Francisco Lindor, Xander Bogaerts? And you can say Semien if it's him, even though we already talked about him. But of those 5, do you have one that you're zeroed in on, or do you like the whole group, or where you come out?
I mean, I like the whole group. I think that you can easily make the argument that all of these guys are somewhat interchangeable.
Take who's available type deal?
Yeah. In TGFBI, I landed on Story. I hadn't gotten many shares of him up until
He
this
doesn't even have a
point.
team, idiot.
Well, and when he does, he's
I
gonna
know, I'm
puck
kidding.
up.
I know, I'm
Depending,
kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm
um,
totally being silly.
there is a little bit of concern about like where he lands,
Sure.
in terms of not power but stolen bases.
Yeah, because if
Um,
he gets a shit manager, he could be having 8 stolen bases all of a sudden.
yeah. My thinking is the most likely places are going to be either Philadelphia or the Angels in Los Angeles. So
I don't think either would stifle him on the
I don't
bases.
think either would, and the Parks would be fine for him too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty great lineups as well. So,
Yep.
uh, I I am feeling like he should probably be at the top of the tier right now. I've got Tim Anderson at the top of the tier. I do worry about Anderson's injury history. He just always seems to get nicked up and lose 100 plate appearances, 200 plate appearances here and there. But he's
Mm-hmm.
always good too with that. And
And that batting average, like,
yeah, he
foundation that he
I don't know who
delivers.
he sold his soul to be able to maintain those high
It's because
BABIPs
he's
and the
super
batting average.
fast and
Yeah.
hits the ball hard.
Mhm.
It's a good combo. And I know that his plate skills leave a little bit to be desired. He strikes out a lot. He doesn't walk. So we've been worried in the past. I remember definitely talking down on Tim Anderson a little bit, like, be careful, this could regress. He's got a
Mhm.
399 BABIP that drove him in 2019. And so in the shortened season, he had a 383. It was only 2 months. But even last year, another full season, 372.
Yeah,
He's showing now 3 years here that he's hitting the ball hard enough, and his speed component, they have combined to really just make him a solid 300 something player with good power and speed. And yeah, I like Tim Anderson. I definitely have come around from a few years ago. Like I said, when I used to talk down on him a bit and worry about a sharp regression coming, no, I have him, right with this group. I do have him toward the end of the tier. I'm back in on Lindor. I know not everyone agrees with me, but I'm backing on Lindor. Bogey is a mainstay. I'll take him on teams all day. Story, Anderson, Semien. I'll literally take any of them. And I ended
Yeah.
up getting Bogarts with Bichette. And I know some people don't like to take two of a position. I don't place like special save it for later value on CI and MI. If the right player's there, they're just positions like anything else. And I'm not going to pass up Xander Bogaerts just to fill a spot. I think we do that too much in fantasy overall, both in the early and in the middle rounds, right? Like
Hmm.
you see that third base is like your only infield position that's open, but you take a much lesser third baseman than, say, another outfielder or any other position because you're like, I got to fill this. And it's like, no, you don't. If there's 5 third basemen available and they're all kind of the same and they all go 2 rounds later, just wait the 2 rounds. Don't fill your spot. But I do think that a lot of us can get, sucked into doing that, looking at an open spot on our roster and saying, I got to fill that right now. Take the talent and know where the pockets of value are. And I've been testing myself with that in TGFBI. Like I didn't overdo it at second base. I told you how I got Segura. There was
Hmm.
like 5-6 rounds there where I just kind of kept looking like, do I just reach for somebody or do I wait and trust my board that has Rogers, Wong, Segura, and France all very similar? And they all went, by the way, within 5 picks of each other. And I got Segura. So again, sorry, another derailment there, but don't overdo it. Like if you get 2 shortstops early, I say you should be happy with that. I am. Bichette and Bogarts, I
Hmm.
love having 2 shortstops. And I don't, if I love an MI that much later, I'll put him at util.
Yeah, I think the hard part for me with that is, I've been getting Nelson Cruz in just about every draft,
And
and
that's fair.
so like
So
I
if your
know
util is spoken for, I
Mhm.
get that. It's about a
and I
draft
do,
style.
and I do like a lot of the late MIs, and
I do
so
too. I do
uh,
too. So I'm gonna
it's.
have to figure it out with them.
Hmm. But I mean, it's hard because, especially for those of you who are like me, and draft early and often, and you're used to these 50-round draft and holds, man, transitioning into a 30-rounder like we are for TGFBI
Yep.
is shocking, like how deep a lot of these positions go, especially shortstop. But I mean, all the positions, like I'm not real super worried about depth, considering all these 50-round draft and holds I've done. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem. I'm gonna if someone is dropped in a draft and or just is like the best overall value, I'm likely gonna take them and then not worry about MI for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at. And so I got Bogarts. That would be at pick 55, I think, if I'm doing my math right, which I'm probably not. Let's just be honest. So 5 picks lower than his ADP. I felt good. I felt good about that. I felt like that was an easy pick for me. The guys that went next, Buxton, Jimenez, Eloy Jimenez, Freddie Peralta, Alberto Mondesi, Corey Seager were the next 5 after I took Bogey. And those are all fine picks. Like I could have, I'm not out on Buxton. I like Eloy, but I felt like Bogey was the guy there. So I went ahead and took him for a second shortstop. Your thoughts on Lindor? I've mentioned that I'm in. I think it's going to be a rebound. I see it a little bit like a Carlos Beltran transition to New York type of thing. And I know that he wasn't great in 20, and a lot of people are adding that in, but I'm not giving that full credence because I'm not giving anybody's 2020 full credence. I'm not saying like he's been down for 2 seasons. And the funny thing is, though, too, even as a down Francisco Lindor, he's still been an above average bat each of these 2 years. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I just mean from a WRC plus standpoint. I'm not going to tell you that last year's 2010 with a 230 average was dope. It was the 22nd rated shortstop. He hurt you. But I look at the plate skills, and even though the strikeout rate went up a little bit, so too did the walk rate. A 181 ISO is still a pretty good power foundation. I know that hitting in City is not great, but neither is necessarily hitting in Cleveland. Although, as a switch hitter, I think when he was batting lefty, it's good for lefties, but I think it's medium to poor for righties. I might, if I have that wrong, correct me on Cleveland Stadium. So he did get some advantage there, but I just think he's going to rebound and kind of get back to his 2020 with a better average. How do you feel about Lindor? Are you back in, or are you worried that based on 2020 plus last year?
I'm kind of in between. I think he's gonna rebound from last year, and so like I'm not super worried that he's going to like be super disappointing again, be the like outside top 20 shortstop. The question is, I wonder how much he'll rebound. I will say that the underlying Statcast data, especially in the second half, supports a rebound. His max exit velocity was like 113. His barrel percentage was, around 11-12%. Hard hit percentage 46%. Like he started stinging the ball again. And maybe it was a matter of like getting comfortable in New York. It is a tougher place to hit. I don't think we're going to see another like 30 homer season necessarily.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I do worry about the steals because of Showalter.
And that's
always a concern. But we talk about it, and I'd have to do the research. We know that they stole like comically low bases in Baltimore.
Yeah, he stole.
Did they have guys worth stealing though?
Yes and no. People? I mean, he didn't have like the guys that like are burners necessarily, but I mean, he had Adam Jones, in some prime Adam Jones years. He had Machado when Machado was still stealing bases.
But didn't he have Machado when he broke both of his freaking knees too?
He did. So, but I mean, like, I went through this. Can't remember what podcast. Might have been on this podcast, with Jenny, and Jason on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I went through like how many stolen bases Buck Showalter Orioles team stole between like in his last 4 seasons with the Orioles, and it's hilarious. I mean, we're talking. Starling Marte had more stolen bases than Orioles teams did. Yeah.
With Oakland alone, I think he had some more. Like it was nuts.
They had like, I want to say 16 or 19 stolen bases in an entire season as a team. So, but who knows? Like, who knows? Yeah. Like, I mean, I definitely
am a lot slugging more teams too.
Yeah. I mean, they had Chris Davis and Trumbo and
Nelson Cruz for 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, so they may not have wanted to run into outs when you've got a guy who can hit a 3-run home run behind you, right?
Yeah. So you're tepid on, like, you're okay on Lindor, but you're not seeking him out like me.
Yeah, I've got him kind of behind. I've got him behind Tim Anderson and behind Story. I've got him in
I'm
front of
okay with that.
Bogarts, but I've actually
Even in
flipped.
front of Bogarts.
Yeah, I flipped them back and forth.
I do too, actually, because like I said, I'm in on Lindor, but I love Bogey, and
I do too.
he's just so good, and I don't really care that he doesn't run.
Yeah, it's the not running part
I
that
mean, he
kind of
gives you a
gets
little
me.
chip in. He
Mhm.
8 back in 2018, 4 in 2019, 8 in the shortened season, which was cool because that kind of came out of nowhere. But then 5 last year and another full season. So you really should be banking on him for somewhere in like the 4 to 6 range. And if you get anything extra from Bogarts, cool. But so if you need speed, I do think you should be looking at Anderson, Story, Semien, and even Lindor ahead of him
Mhm.
if you need speed around there. But you can't knock what he does. He's a consistently stud batting average, solid
Mhm.
power, and great counting because with the runs and ribbies because Xander Bogarts is in Boston and they have a quality lineup. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
really do like him. All right, we covered all of them. We already discussed Semien, Baez, Chisholm, Polanco, Cronenworth, Taylor, Urias, all on the second base show. If you really want to hear a deep dive, any points that you forgot to make about them that you want to make, or are we moving over to the core guys?
Let's move to the core guys.
Okay, the core. Wander Franco. These are guys that you can definitely count on as your top shortstop, and they should give you a strong season. Even the guy who's not in the majors yet, you'll draft somebody to replace him for the first month, and then hopefully it gives you 4.5 months. However many months we play, whatever, of quality work. So that's Wander Franco, Corey Seager, Bobby Witt Jr., who I was just referencing, Carlos Correa, Dansby Swanson, Willie Adames. There's some question marks, but if you wait on shortstop because you like the depth and you get one of these guys, you're not in really a bad position. Let's start with Wander. He's up there with the last group that we talked about in
Mhm.
terms of ADP, but because of the naming mechanism that I used, I didn't include him with those guys because he's not an established stud, but he's going at pick 60 on average. He's got some great projections because he was amazing last year in his 70 games. For me, though, it comes down to the power and speed and the relatively modest output of both. The projections kind of live in like the high teens and high single digits to low to low double digits of his steals. So it's really the average runs and even the ribbies at like 80 that are driving his projection. Are you in on a Wander breakout this year?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't see a breakout.
I don't either.
I see a lot of goodness.
Yeah, I
I
do too.
like I think and I've talked about how I'm not drafting Wander Franco at the price this year, and I've gotten like some pushback, and it's like I don't think it's gonna be bad, and
No, I don't either.
I think there's something to be said for a player of his age having a really safe floor.
It's
Um,
wild. It's unbelievable that you
mhm.
can actually feel like you can bank on a 21-year-old like that.
Yeah. My question becomes, do we really see the kind of power that some of the projection systems have him for?
You
I
mean
mean,
even like the 19
yeah,
homers?
like I
Yeah,
don't know that we see 19 homers this year.
I'm with you, man.
Um,
And I'm really suspect on even the 8 steals.
and I'm even more suspect on that. I mean, I love how like anytime someone has like a really great debut or really great small sample, people are very quick to go, "Oh, look if you prorate this out to 162 games."
Yeah,
Well, if you prorate it out to 162 games, or let's say
like 5.
600 plate appearances, because he had 308 last year,
Oh
so
yeah,
just
so you could
double
just
it.
lazily
Just
double it.
just lazily double it. That's 14 home runs and 4 stolen bases.
Exactly.
Um,
Now
with
that's
a
lazy. We know that. We know
it's
that. But
absolutely lazy,
even
and it's not what I'm doing. But I think 15-5 sounds about right. Now, I think the batting average will probably be better. He's a guy who hit 300 all throughout the minor leagues.
he
I
could
would
hit
not,
320 and
yeah,
nobody would bat an eye for
and I
Wander
was
Franco.
literally going to say that exact
Sorry,
same
I'll let
thing.
you finish that.
No,
My
it's
bad. My
okay.
bad.
Like if he wins the batting title, I'm not going to be surprised. Um, and so I think while he is going a little bit higher than I'm willing to take him, um, if he drops in a draft, I'm not out on him by any stretch of the imagination.
And that's where I'm at too, where I'm like, I don't want to take him at 60 right now, but his max is 83, which puts him closer to
And that
Seager and Witt.
that's fair.
And I'm back in there.
I'll take him over Seager. I'll probably take him over Witt too, even though I'm
I would
starting
too.
to come around on Witt a little bit.
Yeah.
For a reason that one of our listeners pointed out to me that I hadn't really
Well, let's
entered into.
let's talk about that because Seager and Witt are next. So let's go to that Witt situation. We've got him already penciled in on roster resource. So I don't know if Jason knows something that we don't, Jason Martinez, and thinks that the CBA is going to have a cutout to where he's just going to be there from day one, or maybe they're working on a pre-arb deal. I don't think he'll break camp, but he cannot have that much left to prove at AAA. Like he had a god tier AA AAA season. He went 16-14 at AA in 61 games, and then 17-15 at AAA in 62 games. Just Bobby Witt Jr. couldn't have been better. What did you hear from a listener that has you a little bit more intrigued by him?
Well, he just asked me a question, via DM on Twitter. He was, and he said, "Hey, with the fact that it seems like Bobby Witt Jr. will play third base and the lack of depth of the third base pool, should I be drafting him a little bit higher, considering at some point he's going to be third base eligible, and that just fills a really big hole in my team?" And I went, that's not something I really thought about necessarily, but he's right.
Didn't either. I did. I actually kind of kept using the depth of shortstop to down him a little bit, saying like, why do I need to reach for him? Not thinking that Nicky Lopez is playing short.
If you go over, I'm just going to go over to my third base ranks real quick. I would probably plug him I don't know, above Bregman.
How dare you?
He, probably below Arenado, above Bregman. So he would be
what's that, like 6 or 7?
He'd be my 7th third baseman.
Yeah, me too.
And now I'm like, and I mean, here's the thing, and I have to go back and double check this, but didn't part of the shortened season in 2020, the agreement was anybody who played automatically got that year of service time, right?
Yes.
So if we have a shortened season and that kind of rule is in effect where there isn't going to be the incentive to hold guys down, he may be up day one.
I mean, that'd be great. That'd be great. And if they start, they are definitely fancying themselves on the verge. The Royals know that they're putting some things together. They kind of thought it was going to come last year. I've talked about how, I was kind of in on them as a sneak team. They had a good first month and then completely shit the bed. But that offense they're starting to put together is nice. You throw Witt in the middle there, Merrifield, Lopez, Perez, Benintendi, Witt. Obviously, you need some health from Mondesi. And even the Dozier, Isbell, Taylor as the last three. I'm not sitting here telling you those are amazing, but they all do different things that are quality for a lineup. Like Taylor's defense is amazing. Isbell is a solid prospect. Dozier, I can't quit him, but he was wretched last year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was wretched, but he's signed, so he is going to play. But yeah, they're starting to put some things together. And if they do find a way to just have Witt there from day one, obviously the people that are drafting him right now are getting an absolute coup over the rest of the league. Yeah,
absolutely. So, Witt was a guy where I wasn't paying the price. I may pay the price here at some point.
I think I want to, again, we have a different setup than some folks that play 1 or 2 leagues. We kind of have a portfolio, and that's why I'm talking about getting our shares and whatnot. We can diversify a little bit. I totally understand if you're a 1 or 2 league person, you don't want to take that risk because shortstop is so deep, and if you don't want to wait on it, fine. But if you are a multi-leaguer, I think kind of getting in on this excellent profile just in case it pops day one makes some sense. So I like Witt as well, and I'm certainly open to getting him somewhere. I don't think it'll be the main, but beat Paul Sporer League is going to be coming up. I like to let you guys beat me, so maybe I'll just take Bobby Witt, and then he'll stay in the minors all year.
Maybe
I had I'm not trying to humble brag or anything. I had a pretty good year last year. Not in the beat Paul Sports. I let those live up to their name. I finished 9th in both of them. The only 2 leagues I did not really do well in were those 2 leagues. All right, let's talk about your boy Seager. He's going out to Texas. We've talked about how Texas can be.
My boy Seager.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Justin does not like Corey Seager.
This is a tier of guys I've hated in the past.
Correct. It really is for very various reasons. One thing about Globe Life, though, is it's actually a little bit tougher on righties than lefties. So he's not necessarily going out there to Texas and going to get crapped on. it could be all right for Corey Seager out there, where it's just kind of fine. Now he's going from LA's lineup to Texas's lineup.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no way to slice that. That isn't tough. So let's be clear about that. But I've talked about the difficulties of Globe Life multiple times in general with relation to Semien and Seager. I want to point out that it is harder on righties than it is lefties, and Seager's getting more of a neutral park than the 96 park factor rating that ranks 22nd for right-handers for for Marcus Semien. It's actually 16th at an even 100 for lefties. So we know the lineup is a hit. Go ahead.
Even if it was hard on him, though, like I'm not worried about that with Seager,
because he's just a good player.
He's just a really, really good hitter.
It's all about the health for you, right?
It's all about the health, and now that lineup.
Yeah.
Because the lineup is going to be bad. Josh Young getting hurt,
sucks,
means
dude.
we don't get the reinforcements we thought we might get.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be like Oakland bad lineup, but it's going to be bad.
My God. Oakland is so bad, dude.
So, yeah, I think I'm not going to draft Seager. He doesn't steal bases. The injury risk is too great at this point. The lineup is awful, and there's just so many other guys in this tier, and even in tiers later that I'd be much more interested in drafting.
And that's really the issue with Seager. It's like, and I've backed him plenty. We've had millions of Seager arguments on this show, and you can argue with the talent, but it's like 90 games of his talent too often now. Another hurt season in 21. Again, when we had a big combo about it, 3 of the 4 seasons were pretty healthy. They were over 500 plate appearances, 2 of which were over 600. But then just another hit this past year, and going to the week lineup. I'm moving closer toward you. Plus, the depth of the position also makes it easier to be like, I just don't want to take that risk. It's an annoying risk, is what it is.
And if you're going to take the risk, you want it to be on a guy that you feel like really could separate himself. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Seager could, but the lack of speed really hurts him from helping you.
How much that separation can be, right? Yep.
Especially when you got guys like Lindor who can steal 15, 25 or 20 bases.
Yep.
Guys, in this tier like Bobby Witt Jr. can steal bases. At least
Dansby gives double digits.
I was about to say Dansby Swanson at least steals bases.
Yeah.
So there's not enough separation, even when he is healthy, to warrant the downside of when he is not.
I agree. I like him. I respect Corey Seager as a very good player, wonderful hitter, but he's just not going to end up on teams this year. Let's talk Swanson, because he was somebody that you hated a long time ago. It was all price related because he was overblown based on, was it all the way back in 16 after his like 38 game debut, or when? I think it was that, because he wasn't good for 2 years after that. So it had to have been that. And people came in because he was a 1-1. And he checked high on prospect lists too, even though a lot of that was his defense. And people were just going crazy. And you had hella pushback, like, stop, y'all, do not draft this guy. And you were dead right. Like, he was dreadful in 17 and still pretty modest in 18 when he went 14-10, but with a 238 average, which was for a 79 WRC plus. But since then, since 19, we really start to see some things come together. 2019 was derailed a bit by injury, but he was breaking out, still wound up with 17-10. In the 2020 season, Dansby Swanson played 60 games, and he was one of the best players, 10-5, 274 average. It was 2 months. And then last year, 160 games, 27 homers, big power breakout with 9 steals. 248 average is nothing to write home about, but it's not killing you either. 88 ribbies, 78 runs on the Braves. So Dansby Swanson now has established himself as much more of a credible player on the fantasy side. Have you changed your tune? Is the price fair enough for you to maybe draft Dansby Swanson? He goes 114 on average over the last month, with a range of 90 at the high end to 131 at the low end. Where do you currently stand in 2022 on Dansby Swanson?
I'm definitely willing to draft him this year. I think, like you said, he's made some real changes. I love the fact that on top of the power growth that we've seen, we are still getting the stolen bases.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder, he was healthy this year. He was healthy in 2021. He's healthy in shortened season. But prior to that, he just got nicked up constantly.
Because he plays a strong defense, so he's out there diving and flipping and doing all that shit
with that hair just all over the place, and
he's way too good looking.
Making everybody swoon. And so I do worry a little bit about that. Like, it is 650 plate appearances repeatable for a guy like Swanson.
He does have 3 over 530 though too. 3 seasons over 530. So like it's usually like a one IL stint type of deal. He's not getting decimated, but you're right. You guys get nicked up.
It's not like Corey Seager. It's just I don't know that
I would hurt though too.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to
put some shit.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to put him as like a 600 plate appearance guy. Maybe a 550, something like that.
I think that's fair.
And I don't know where he's going to hit in the lineup. And it's
not his right now.
It's not his fault.
Correct.
It really depends on where the Braves want to hit Acuna in the lineup, and are the Braves going to bring back Freddie Freeman?
Exactly. Exactly. So if they, I think for Swanson's purposes, not bringing back Freddie Freeman would be huge.
Absolutely, I think because
he stays one and Acuna bats in the middle.
Yeah.
Pardon me. If Freeman comes back, I think it can hit him, and he goes back down to like 6.
Yeah,
because Acuna's at the top. And
and it could be 7 because you have to think they're going to bring in another outfielder likely too.
Also true, because they have Waters and Pache currently penciled in. I don't think that they can go with both of them.
They absolutely
might get like a Conforto, like a Schwarber.
They could bring back a Soler or a Rosario.
Yep.
So, right now the way things stand, like if the season started today, he's probably hitting 1 or 2. But I don't think that's where he's going to end up. So
that is the tough part with Swanson.
I'm still fine drafting him. I mean,
me too.
No knocking 25-10.
But don't use that as like don't be like, oh, and he's leading off and bank on that. You can say there's a chance he leads off, but it is a low chance that we feel like and obviously at this point, fucking March 4th, we would normally have a much better feel on that, but we haven't had an off season and. God, it just pisses me off so much, Justin. Sorry. Anyway, yes, that's Dansby Swanson. We both like him. We're definitely open to taking him. Another guy, like you said, you've hated this tier, almost all of them at some point. Obviously not Wander Franco or Bobby Witt. They're brand new. But Seager, Correa, and Dansby specifically. I don't think you ever were out or heavily against Willy Adames, but
no, I was actually a Willy Adames guy.
Yeah. You've been a stan of his more so. But it's those other 3 that you've definitely had some big pushback against. And Correa has been one of those guys. He's unsigned right now, which we know he's going to sign somewhere. Maybe Houston. Maybe he goes to Philly or the same spots that Story could go to. Plus, maybe going back to Houston. Health has been a concern for him as well. You basically kind of have your same take on Seager to Correa, I believe. And I've always felt it was stronger with Correa than it was Seager until last year. I started to relent a little bit, but 153, or I'll just start from the very beginning. 99 his rookie year, but that's when he came. That wasn't injury. That was just he came up later. But then 153, 109, 110, 75, 58 out of 60 in the shortened season, but it's 2 months. So who cares? And then 148 last year, which was a nice spike back up over 600 plate appearances for Correa with 640. 27 years old. Where do you currently stand? Because he played a full season last year. Is the 2692, 279 with 104 runs, 0 steals? Is that good enough for you? Even when he stayed healthy, or are you just underwhelmed in general, plus the health risk? Like, where do you come out on Correa these days?
Yeah, I'm kind of underwhelmed in general, plus then you add in the health risk. And we don't know what park he's going to be in. I feel like he's going to be back in Houston.
I kind of do too, yep.
Like, that feels like the right spot. But, I mean, maybe the Angels jump in. Maybe the Yankees jump in. Maybe Philadelphia jumps in. But, I mean, I don't really see as like necessarily a bad landing spot for him. So, like, I'm not super worried about where he lands. I am super worried about the fact that he always seems to get hurt. And that even in, like, what was his, like, really best season of his career, it was 26 home runs and 0 stolen bases.
And do you know where that ranked last year at shortstop?
I'm gonna guess 17th.
You're very close, 15.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
a pretty
that's
good
where
guess.
he's going. He's the 15th guy, 15th shortstop off
But
the
we're
board.
talking about like that was his dream season. Like, why are we drafting
Exactly.
him 15th if that's where his dream season is?
I hear you, and I've been a Correa honk. I really wanted him to go to my Tigers, really for the the real life aspect more than fantasy, because that park is not great or anything. But he's a good player, but is he a great fantasy player? And I don't think so. He's a flat out 0 in steals. And we haven't seen like 30 homer pop. Now he's going to only be 27. That's the thing. He's been around forever, it feels like, with Correa, and yet he's still only going to be 27. There could feasibly be a power jump, but we can't bank on that. And then it would come right back to your point about the health, though, too. Even if he jumped his power rates, would he play another 640 plate appearances? So the bottom line ends up leading me pretty much away from Correa. In fact, from my previous rankings, when the new shortstop ones come out next week, he's going to be one of my biggest droppers. I've dropped him 7 spots. I had him very high in the first run, and I've actually got him down 8 spots to 15. I have him where the market has him, but I dropped him down from 7.
I have him 19th.
I'm not sure I'm really going to crush you on that. And I might drop him further by the time the shortstops come out next week, when I start researching some of these guys and maybe get a little bit more warm and fuzzy about Jazz Chisholm, who I've been a little bit tough on, but he does have the speed at least. So I don't blame you. I don't think 19 is out of pocket for Carlos Correa.
Yeah. And injuries, lack of speed, and it's not a profile I'm willing to gamble on necessarily.
I totally get it.
Yeah. So the last guy in this tier, I think, right, is Willy Adames. Like I said,
Yes.
Love him. Absolutely love him.
Me too.
I have him as my 15th ranked shortstop. What he did from the time he went to Milwaukee from Tampa was absolutely amazing. He's one of the guys who complained about not being able to see because of the batter's eye in Tampa Bay. And
totally tracked. It totally tracked. I mean, his road numbers were disastrous, and he was great from day. Or his home numbers were disastrous. Sorry, his road numbers were all-star level, and he basically took those road numbers, and that's who he was with Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a prime example of why I'm not out on Nelson Cruz after his struggles in Tampa.
Exactly.
I just think certain hitters struggle with that hitter eye in Tampa. So, I mean, I think he is super, super solid. Another guy who's probably 25-10. I've got him and Dansby right in lockstep with each other. I could flip them, and I may actually move them up, both up another spot, and move Cronenworth down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love Adames as well. I still remember when we traded for David Price and Adames was in that deal, and Eric told me, keep an eye on this Adames guy. I'm not telling you this to like make you feel bad, but like he's going to be the prize of that deal. And he was dead on. He was like 18 at the time. He's like, yeah, you guys are getting David Price, so don't be upset about getting an ace. But Adames is the guy you guys are going to be bummed about giving up. And he was completely dead on. And Adames has become a monster. And I think he's got 30 homer power this year. And unlike Correa, he at least does chip in a few steals, something. Correa's straight up 0, dude. He's 0 last year. He's 0 in the 20 season. He's 1 out of 1 in 2019. He only played 75 games, but then 3 out of 3, 2 out of 3. Like, he ain't doing shit. Adames at least had 5 last year. He was 5 for 9. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's good, but I think he is a 5 every year type of guy.
And I think there'll be a year where he hits 10.
Probably. Yep. I think so. And I hope it's this year because I'll have Adames on some teams.
Me too.
So yeah, I'm fully in on Adames. 26 years old, going to have a first full year in Milwaukee, totally away from the Trop. And I think he'll be a monster. All right, the upside group. And some of these guys have performed before, and you might not believe in the upside of some of them, but the reason I labeled it this is because people are drafting them for upside. And I gave that caveat out front because the first guy is Gleyber Torres, and some people are out on him, but others still see the upside. So it's Gleyber Torres, Ahmed Rosario, Oneil Cruz, Andres Jimenez, Gavin Lux, Josh who's Josh Lopez? Josh Rojas, Nicky Lopez. So another interesting group here. And let's start with Glaber. Am I correct? And you're out on Glaber?
No, I'm not out on Glaber.
Okay. I misremembered something there.
I've been out on Glaber in the past, but I think where he's going now is totally fair. We saw a little bit of a bounce back towards the end of last season. I've got him ranked,
and it's almost like he had fantasy guys in mind running 14 times, getting 14 steals, saying, "Hey, my power's out this year. Let me give you guys some steals." Where do you have ranked?
I've got him ranked. Let's see, 17, right in front of Corey Seager and Carlos Correa.
Oh, so you're definitely not out.
Yeah, and I've drafted him in a few leagues already because you get late speed from him. The rabbit ball really, blew up his spot in 2019. Like, and getting to go against the Orioles like 40 times that year.
Those were the two factors for sure.
So, we can't expect him to be a 30 homer hitter. Like, it's just not who he is. But I'm not going to be surprised if he, is a 2015 guy or a 50,
be awesome. So the real question is,
guy, yeah.
The real question is on that speed. So you believe that speed is something that he'll continue to run. He ran 20 times last year, and he was 14 for 20. So you feel like, okay, double-digit speed from Glaber is something I can put in the sheet. I
absolutely do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you give any credence to playing short versus second? I haven't seen any data to back it up. I've just seen it like kind of mentioned as a talking point that people are worried that if he plays short, because like, I don't know, how much do you make of that though? Like, he had 434 plate appearances at short, and he had 671 OPS. He only had 78 at second. He did have an 815 OPS, but I don't know, man. Is like the defensive stresses of short hurting him, or is that just a sample fluke?
Both maybe. Like, I don't think that like playing shortstop is so much inherently more difficult that it lowers your offensive numbers. I do think struggling defensively gets in the head of guys. That make them struggle.
They take it to the dish.
Yeah, they take it to the dish because they're still thinking about the ball they booted last inning.
Yeah.
Or that, I could have gotten to that play.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think. I think we saw it with Suarez last year.
Yes. Oh my God.
He was struggling so much, and it wasn't because he was just playing shortstop, but just because he was playing poorly.
They did him dirty by even putting him out there like that.
We saw when he moved back to third base, like the numbers improved because he was a lot more confident and capable there. And I think, more than any other sport, I think you probably put basketball in this as well. Like, baseball is a rhythm and feel sport. And when you're just not in a good rhythm, things get messed up. So
absolutely.
I think maybe being at second base will, make him feel more confident because he's making the plays he needs to make in the field.
I think that's fair.
Now, that is completely anecdotal. Looking for a different word.
I can't get there. I know the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
And neither of us. It's on the tip of our brains.
It's a story. Like, it's a story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Thank you. Narrative was the word.
Yeah.
It's a narrative, and I hate narratives. I am the anti-narrative guy. Every time someone starts giving me a narrative on, this reason why this player is going to be great or this player is going to be bad.
See, I don't. I think the pushback against narratives has gone too far.
And I will continue to lead that pushback.
Sometimes narratives tell the story though. Like, but the Willie Adames can't hit it home as a narrative.
No,
it's borne out in the stats. Like, are you saying a narrative has like no statistical backing, or is just like kind of extrapolating the narrative from the stats? Like,
no. I mean, when someone uses a narrative to just throw away stats, like, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Well, and
we've had
him over your argument here. Mm-hmm. I'll strengthen your argument on this narrative because for his career, Gleyber Torres is dead even at both positions. He's a 794 OPS. Well, not dead even, if I'm being literal. He's 794 OPS at second base, 795 at short. So that's bigger samples too. 677 or excuse me, 750 plate appearances at second, 982 at short. So bottom line with Gleyber,
with Adames, like the example was like you looked at the home road splits and you go, there's something clearly going wrong.
the data
at
was
home
the data
in
firmly backed it.
the data firmly. It's for me, it's when like
when the source is just trust me, dude.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
opposed to, I love that meme, by the way. Sources, just trust me, dude.
Oh, it's like contract year stuff. Like people like, he's playing for a contract. You don't think he's been playing for a contract his entire career?
Exactly.
These are professional effing athletes.
And the only thing
they
that
play hard
has been proven on that was that guys might play through nagging injuries a bit more to get the volume,
which sometimes makes them worse.
Exactly. And they're again, that I think that was in Baseball Between the Numbers, the Baseball Perspectives book years ago, that showed that, like, yes, there is a little bit of a boost overall, but it's only by volume. And there were examples of guys who got hurt by trying to play through, created a bigger injury, and screwed themselves. So there's no definitive contract year thing. So
and the narrative on this conversation is I also use narratives all the fucking time,
of course,
when it works for me, because I've been doing one with Hyunjin Ryu talking about how he wasn't able to see his family in and so like when the narrative suits my purpose, I will use it, and when the narrative does not, and when the narrative does not suit my purpose, I will clown the hell out of narratives. Yeah, absolutely.
So you think Gleyber Torres is a firm double bet?
I do. I do not think Gleyber Torres belongs in this tier.
Okay. So he should be in the core group?
I think he should be with the core group.
Okay. I think that's fair. Ahmed Rosario. And let's go Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez together. Did you catch any of the chatter highlighted or centered around Ariel Cohen's drafting of Ahmed Rosario? Did you see that?
I did not.
So he took him in TGFBI, I want to say in the 9th round. Like he was sharing his team. Did you say, oh wow? Okay, so you're with the rest of the group. Because that there was a lot of like, oh, Rosario in the 9th, and he got a lot of pushback. And he really was backing him up. Not saying that he was like a god. He's more like he just thinks he gets the playing time and thinks that he'll be a safe 15-15 guy. He went 11-13 last year as a 25-year-old with a 282 average. He was basically league average, had a 99 WRC plus. He was 13 for 13, by the way, Rosario was on the bases. That's really sharp after going 19 for 29 back in 2019. Do you agree with Ariel that he's a 15-15 somewhat safe play, or was that, oh, wow, because you have some concerns about taking Ahmed Rosario in the 9th round?
No, I don't necessarily have concerns. I just haven't been seeing him go there.
Okay.
But Ariel's also one of those guys. He's got his projection system, and he's going to
And it's not wildly out of ADP, by the way. He's a 10th rounder.
Oh, okay. He has not been going in 10th round in a lot of drafts I'm in, which means I should have more shares of Ahmed Rosario, because I kind of agree. I think, especially if you're in a league where he still has outfield eligibility, like Yahoo, I think,
nice.
I think in Tout, he'll have outfield eligibility for us as well, because he had 18 games in center field. So, and 15 is the limit there. So
that's hot.
Hot.
We couldn't get 2 more to get outfield and NFBC, son of a bitch.
So, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think most of his games in the outfield were earlier on in the season. So it's not like he'll probably get it in season. He's probably just going to be the full-time shortstop there. But no, I like Rosario. I think he's just kind of a, lower end all around producer, right? Like he's a guy that, he doesn't have a standout tool, but he just gives you a lot of everything, especially those of you who don't want to rely on like the heavy stolen base guys, the guys who steal 25, 30 bases, and you prefer to build throughout the draft, getting a bunch of 10 and 15 guys. Rosario fits that. And so,
that's perfect. He's perfect for that.
Yeah.
And so that was what Ariel was kind of saying, was like, I'm getting my chip ins, and because he went Soto, Judge, Baez, India, Josh Bell and Ahmed Rosario were his first 6 offensive players. So he doesn't have like any premium speed. And obviously the rest of his draft needs to be continuing to get some chip ins here and there. Let me ask you this. We did talk about Jimenez at second base, but to be honest, I don't remember exactly what we said. Oh yeah, I remember bringing it up and saying like, I'm not dissing you because you were in on him. I was asking if you were bought back in. I think you said that you would still buy back in on Jimenez as well, right? He goes a lot cheaper. He's 240 average ADP.
Yeah, it kind of just depends on your team build, where you're at. My hope is that by the time I get to Jimenez, like I don't feel like I need a ton of speed.
Okay.
And so like, for instance, in TGFBI, like I didn't take him, even though you went past ADP, because I was okay on speed. And there's also guys later, I ended up taking Jonathan VR a few rounds later, where I was like,
I like that.
That's a speed play in case he gets signed to a place where he's going to start. So I like Jimenez a lot. I still want to get him on teams. But
23 years old, man. Like,
yeah, there's still so much time for him, and he's gonna. I think the way he played at the end of last season when he got called back up is who he is.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair. I think there's value in both Rosario and Jimenez. They're both young. Rosario's gonna be 26. That's not ancient. It's not baby prospect or anything, but it's not ancient. And Jimenez is legitimately young at age 23 coming into this year, and so I think you can make cases for both. They offer speed, which is important, and Cleveland will let them run. You mentioned that when Jimenez came back in September, 3 homers, 4 steals, 271 average, looked really nice. And people that kind of like that lasting impact, or that, that putting the cap on the season and going into next year, there isn't a whole lot to. That's a narrative driven thing too, for sure. That we're like, oh, he closed well. And it's like, yeah, there's also been 6 months since then, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But he did come back and get his footing again. At the very least, there should be some confidence there for Jimenez, feeling like, okay, I did some things. I got myself back on track. All right, O'Neal Cruz. We've talked a lot about him. Just kind of want to take your temperature because it's been a while since we have. Have you been drafting him? Are you in on him? Do you think Pittsburgh will start him day one or have him in the minors for a couple of weeks? Where do you come out on O'Neal Cruz? Because we talked him up several months ago at this point. You said you're still in. Where are you drafting him, and does he start the season with Pittsburgh?
I have him in 50% of my drafted leagues. I do not have him in TGFBI, unfortunately. He was jumped before I was able to get him. I've been trying to do like a cruise kind of turn on back-to-back picks.
That's actually really nice. Obviously, the funny part with the name matching, but that's actually a really good combo with Nelson Cruz and O'Neal Cruz.
And so I've been usually around 12, 13, 14 rounds in a 15-teamer. I'm usually trying to double tap those guys. Was able to get Nelson Cruz, was not able to get O'Neal Cruz. But I still love O'Neal Cruz. If there is some sort of service time games that teams can do, I'm sure they will send him down for a little bit. And so he'd probably be missing whatever the equivalent of the 3 weeks of the beginning of the season is this year. But like I said, with Bobby Witt Jr., if they come to some sort of agreement like they did in 2020 that anybody who plays gets the year of service time, then he could be up day one. Either way, I'm willing to draft him. Just because I think the upside is so massive. There's a ton of power. There's speed,
and the depth of this position means covering him, and getting somebody to cover for O'Neal Cruz if he does miss a few weeks isn't going to be that difficult.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I love guys like LeMay, or not LeMay in this situation, but Cronenworth, Urias, like guys like that.
Multi-eligibles.
While Cruz is in the minor leagues, I can fill his position with those guys, and then when he comes up, then I'll move him around. So
exactly.
I've got a fair amount of O'Neal Cruz. I will continue to get more as the season as draft season rolls around.
Yeah. I'm in on Cruz too, by the way. I'm in lockstep with you. We talked Gavin Lux in the second base show. I think we talked Josh Rojas as well. Nicky Lopez, big time breakout last year. Just like, holy smokes, where the heck did this come from? It was awesome. His elite defense, earned him that playing time. and he took it and ran with it. Ended up going 22 for 23 on the bases. No power to speak of, literally hit 2 homers, but had a 300 average. The 22 steals I mentioned, 78 runs, 13% strikeout rate, 9% walk, sneaky walk capability too with his contact. You buying this from a 26-year-old Nicky Lopez? Is he now like poor man's Miles Straw, or what do you think about this breakout season out of Nicky Lopez and what it means for 2022?
I mean, in some ways, yes, I am buying it, and I do think he can be a poor man's Miles Straw. In other ways, it's a really, really scary profile because, I mean, while he makes a ton of contact in the zone, and that's what we want to see from a guy like him. I mean, almost 93% zone contact. That's among the leaders in baseball in terms of zone contact. He has no power, like
None.
We talk about like average exit velocity, 12th percentile. His barrel barrel percentage was under 1.
Oh my
It was
God.
0.7.
So he had like 2 all year or something?
He had 3 barrels.
Okay.
So
power's not Nicky Lopez's game.
Like I said, like he does not have much power. So for a barrel, you need exit velocity plus launch angle. His launch angle is low; it's 2.8. So he's not going to get a lot of barrels because he has lack of launch angle, lack of barrels. So that being said, he is fast. He makes a lot of contact, and so he is going to beat out some infield hits, and then when he does, he's going to steal bases. I think he's very unlikely to hit close to 300 again. I think that is just some luck. But I think he's also a guy that from year to year, his batting average will fluctuate. He plays good defense. The Royals do not want Mondesi playing every day. So even when Bobby Witt Jr. comes up, I think Mondesi is going to DH a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Lopez was Gold Glover too, so like at a premium position, like he's not going anywhere as far as playing time.
I think Lopez probably hits 250 and steals 15 to 20 bases.
Okay,
which is fine.
That's where the projections are at with him. Yeah. And if your team build can fit it, and you're loaded on power, and you just are desperate for that speed, you can take it. Nicky Lopez will be on 0 of my teams.
I already have him on it. I have him on a team with Miles Straw.
Can't do it.
I'm
sorry, what?
I have him on a team with Miles Straw.
Do you have any power?
I have a ton of power.
I would hope so. Let's hear it.
I'd have to.
Oh, you don't have it pulled up. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's wild though.
I talked about this team earlier this offseason.
Okay, I think I forgot.
It was my second DC, and every once in a while for a draft, I'll just go, I'm going to take the best player available for the first 5-6 rounds and see what happens. And what happened was I had no speed coming out of the 6th round. I had my third starter was Jack Flaherty. Like my pitching was amazing. And like I had great power at the top. And
great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, and what comes great power is
comes no speed.
The lack of speed, and it was either punt speed or take some shots on Miles Straw and Nicky Lopez. And I hate that team. I will never do that again.
Understandably,
or at least I will not do it again this season. And I don't know that I've drafted Nicky Lopez since. I do have my shares list up.
I certainly don't blame that reason.
Oh wait, no, that's Pablo Lopez. That is the only team I have Nicky Lopez on.
Yeah,
like that team will likely
like
finish. Team. Yeah, that team will likely finish in like 12th. I can just say right now, like that team is not good.
Okay, let's say this though. What if it wins? Would that change your outlook on like just over indexing and getting like elite power guys up front and then taking the rabbits in the middle and late rounds? Like, would it change you at all? Would there be some confirmation bias there, or would you just say, wow, I got lucky as shit?
I'd probably say, wow, I just got lucky as shit. So yeah, the team is I just pulled it up. I picked from the 9 spot. I took Kyle Tucker, and then I wrapped around and took Freddie Freeman in the 2nd round.
Okay.
And then I went Giolito Lynn, in the 3-4.
I love that.
Nick Castellanos in the 5th, Jack Flaherty in the 6th. And this was the point in which I went, okay, well, now I don't have any speed.
Where's my speed?
I've got, probably
Tucker.
8 from Freeman, 15 to 20 from Tucker.
Yeah.
So I took Miles Straw in the 7th, Dalton Varsho in the 8th. A few triple eligible guys in Chris Taylor and Cronenworth, Austin Meadows, Nelson Cruz. I have zero. I do not have a lot of saves on this team. I could be in a lot of trouble in saves.
What kind of league is this?
This is a 15-team DC.
Okay.
It is not a good team. This is an example of. In some ways, it's very reminiscent of what I did in TGFBI in a different way. But it's a team where I like a lot of the pieces, and I do not like how they fit.
But you don't like the team. I remember you actually sharing this with me and saying that before you did the same thing here with your TGFBI team. Mm-hmm. I'll be interested to follow that one. I honestly, you need to keep tabs on that one for us and let us know how that team is doing as the season goes, because it's a really unique build. But I agree that's not ideal or what you would normally try to do. Mm-hmm. But we are running on time here. So
this is a league where I did double tap the Cruz though.
And I really do like that, by the way. Again, it's fun for the name thing, but those two players fit well together, Nelson and O'Neill Cruz. Let's go on to the MIs. And I got to be honest, I'd forgotten to list Brandon Crawford. He's probably better than this group, but maybe not, right? Because he spiked that big season, and I don't know that anyone's necessarily banking on him kind of being at that level. So maybe he is appropriately placed, but I will say I glossed over him on accident. So I'm squeezing him in here on the MIs with Brandon Crawford, Eugenio Suarez, Jonathan VR, Gio Urshela, JP Crawford, Miguel Rojas, and Paul DeYoung. Let's start with B. Craw for your beloved Giants. Mm-hmm. Where the hell did that come from, dude? 24-11 with a 298 average, 90 ribbies, 79 runs. Obviously, y'all's team was amazing, and he was a beneficiary. He was part of it, though, too, right? It's like, not only did he benefit from it, but he contributed to it. But he didn't just pick up some RBIs with some cheap hitting. He was a god. Yeah, is there some late career legitimacy here with Crawford?
I definitely think there's some legitimacy to it. I don't think you fake your way to a 24-11 season.
Excellent skills behind it too, with the plate skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, really, really attacked. I mean, the Giants came up with a plan. Their hitting coach, or whoever within their organization came up with a plan and said, "Hey, we're going to say, do not swing at pitches you're not guessing at, right? Like come up with a plan of attack. This is what you're looking for. This is where you're looking for it. If it's not there, don't swing.
Pitch. Yeah.
Wait for your pitch." And they did that. And you saw what Brennan Belt and Crawford did. Do I think dividends. Do I think that he can repeat it? Absolutely not. But I don't think it's going to fall apart either. I think we're probably looking at, I like where a lot of the projection systems are. Where the Bat X is 19 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 258. I feel like that is really fair. Yeah. He got lucky on BABIP. And so I do think the batting average, I don't think there's any way he comes close to hitting 300. He hit 298 last year. Mm-hmm. I think he's much more of a 250 kind of hitter. But I think that he definitely has power. He was healthy last year. I think the shortened season helped him get healthy,
regenerate. Yep, I agree for Brandon Crawford. Totally.
I'd be very surprised if he stole double-digit bases again.
Yeah, 11 for 14 at age 34 was hot when he had a combined 11 for the previous 4 seasons. It just happened to work out. I didn't even know that, but he was 11 for 25 in those 4 seasons. So don't even put that in your head. Put him down for 4 and take that. You're focused on the low 260s, high 250s batting average, 17 to 20 homers, and decent runs ribbies, because he's going to play every day, and y'all are still going to be good. I don't know if you're going to win 103 again, but I think the Giants are still
107 this
107.
Year.
Excuse me. How dare I? That is a pretty substantial difference. When you start getting over 100 every game is a deal. So my fault. 107 is fucking amazing. By the way, I will say he actually probably does belong in this group of the MIs, because that projection, which we both like from the Bat X, places him 23rd among shortstops, and that just speaks to the insane depth of this position.
Yeah, I don't, and I think one of the things we forget too is that like this was his pretty much his fewest amount of plate appearances in a season since like the beginning of his career.
Literally since 2012, outside of 2020, which doesn't
So,
not for
like,
this.
He easily could offset some of that regression by just being on the field more because he's a guy who's been on the field a lot his entire career.
Yeah, I agree. So we like B-Craw. I'm totally fine putting B-Craw in my middle, especially if I have some young upside at short. I counterbalance it with kind of crusty vet who I think is going to give me a firm floor and maybe overproduce a little bit. But I'm not banking on 2021 at all. I don't need that from B-Craw for him to be good.
He's also a guy like if I invest in like an O'Neal Cruz or Bobby Witt Jr., like he's a guy that I don't mind putting in my lineup and kind of seeing how he looks early on. And he's an easy drop when those guys come up. If for some reason he just doesn't look like he was the same guy in 2021,
especially in like a 12-teamer.
Yeah. Yep.
You can easily just say, okay, you served your 3 weeks for me, but you're not really crushing. And my prospect is up now. Thank you for your services.
Yeah.
Eugenio, you briefly hinted at him earlier with his position, how he played shortstop last year, which was comical, but it does give us another year of him as shortstop eligible.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually got moved back off of it because he just couldn't handle it, man. He was just way too stretched there. I felt bad for him. And he did kind of get his footing back when he went over to third base. And again, we just talked about this with Glaber, and I don't want to make too much of it just because it fits this narrative really well. 639 OPS as a shortstop, 748 as a third baseman. I don't think it's impossible to say that helped him, though, because, like you said, the confidence of carrying your shitty defense to the dish and just being so dreadful there. Also had a 183 BABIP when he was playing shortstop. So that was part of it, too, just a simple bad luck. But where's the cutoff on the average versus power? Like, he hit 198 last year, and a lot of that was held down by that shortstop performance. But he only hit 212 as a third baseman. Is there enough average from Eugenio Suarez to take the power? I know you like to punt batting average. I'm talking for like an overall component here. So it's worth delineating between the two, because in a standard league, I think it's wide open because you can punt batting average. You can do a lot of different things. But in an overall, can you put Suarez's batting average on your team? Is the power worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze, so to speak?
I think it is.
Okay.
And I think the batting average will rebound a little bit. I mean, you look at the 2021 season, you look at the 2020 season, and what is a huge outlier in those seasons opposed to what he did before? Well, it's the BABIP. I mean, guy was like a career 315 BABIP prior to 2020,
shaved
and then in
100.
Shaved 100 points off that BABIP in 2020 and 2021.
It's crazy.
And like I said, like he aside from moving to third base after being at shortstop and really struggling, he also made a swing change, which helped him get to balls and lift them. And so we saw the huge September. I think he's going to rebound really, really well. He's definitely a guy I want to target late as a shortstop, third base, option. So I love Eugenio Suarez.
You talk about Suarez getting changing his swing a little bit to get some more lift. There were some more fly balls, but he had 42% fly balls in 2019, 47% these last 2 years. I don't think that 5-point change is enough for a 100-point BABIP drop, right? Because more fly balls is going to be a lower BABIP, but not 100 points. The projections put him in the mid 260s on average, it looks like, just spot checking them. Some range as high as 279, 282. However you feel. I think it's like a 235 average, which is perfectly palatable for the power that he delivers. The concern is if you think he's closer to this 200 average with Suarez, but I'm with you. I actually think it is worth the squeeze because I don't think he's a 200 average guy. So I'm willing to take that gamble, even in an overall component where I want to be more balanced. I like Suarez too. I've been constantly eyeing him. I'll have a question for you at third base. So I'll save it for then instead of just jumping it now, because there's a comparison with another guy that I wonder which one you like more, but I'll save that for Tuesday's episode. But yeah, I'm back in on Suarez. I think the price is pretty fair too. The discount totally builds in some cushion for the average concern. Jonathan VR, you hinted at him earlier. He's unsigned right now. he's just kind of what you see is what you get, right? He's going to sign somewhere, and if it's not with a dreadful base stealing manager, then we're going to expect him to be a double and just kind of be fine, right?
Even if it is with a dreadful, like he's just one of those guys that.
That's true. He kind of carries a perma
Yeah.
green light.
Yeah, so I think he'll be fine. It's great that he's got multi-position eligibility at short and third because like what I did was I put him as my first reserve in TGFBI, and now he's covering third, short, MICI.
I love that.
So I'll take it.
I love that. I think we might do a part 2 on shortstops because we got 3 more sections and we really only have like 5 minutes left. And I don't want to blaze through them. Like the last 2 sections are way deep, but I don't want to just blow over this kids one with Barrero, Pena, Stott. Well, I think there's some good discussion to be had there. So we can do that as the beginning of Tuesday's episode. And then maybe get into third base. But let's finish here then with J.P. Crawford, Gio Urshela, Miguel Rojas, and Paul DeJong are the last 4 in this tier. You've been a Paul DeJong guy before, and he's a brilliant fit for your punt average leagues when you do that. He is not interested in batting average. Does he rebound? He's got a little bit of Suarez aspect going right now where he dipped all the way down to 197. Does he find his footing again and get back up to like the 230s, 240s to where that power is worth it? Paul DeJong in St. Louis, how do you feel?
Yeah, here's one of those situations where I'm going to use the narrative to my advantage, right? He's
at least you're honest about it.
Yeah, he's been working in the off season with some new trainers and new hitting coach, and reworking his swing. He got super unlucky, just super unlucky. So I think he is going to definitely rebound. The Cardinals have already committed to him being a full-time player in 2022. So I think he is going criminally low in drafts. And he's definitely a guy I want on my teams, late in the draft.
Okay. I don't have any real issues with that. I don't think Edmundo Sosa is some like ironclad block. Also, the DH is there anyway if they do prefer Sosa. But DeJong improved his defense too, because I keep hearing a lot of like Sosa for defense over DeJong. But DeJong really took some steps forward with his defense. Yeah. So I don't think that he necessarily needs to be pushed off of the position.
I think he has a month to prove that he belongs to be an everyday starter.
Yeah.
Because they'll bring up Gorman if he struggles, right?
Exactly.
So,
and then he'll be relegated to like bench role, and it could be trouble at that point.
So I think between Sosa, Edman, and DeJong, somebody's in trouble because Gorman's taking somebody's spot, and you all have, a month or whatever it's going to be to figure it out.
Totally agree with that.
Otherwise, Gorman's coming up, and he's going to take somebody's spot.
Because he looks ready, and he listen. There's a chance that maybe he's not ready. He gives those guys more time, but the trajectory he's on right now says he's going to be ready in like a month, and those guys better shape up, or one of them's going to have to ship out. You're 100% right. J.P. Crawford was a big time prospect with Philly. Now he's one of those guys that was kind of like Dansby Swanson, where the defense was playing a role in pushing him up to prospect lists, and maybe it fooled some fantasy folks into thinking that he had a brighter future than he did. Not that there wasn't anything with the bat, but maybe it wasn't super fantasy relevant. He started to show a little breakthrough last year at age 26. He was part of that Quality Mariners team. I think he was leading off pretty regularly. 273, 338, 376. No power. 9 homers, 3 for 9 on the bases. I want to be in on J.P. Crawford, but I just can't get there. Like, I see the scouting. I understand the prospect pedigree, but I'm just not really seeing it as anything but pretty bland. You got anything on J.P. Crawford that you want to sell me on, or do you feel similarly?
As I'm coughing. Actually, I'll tell you a little bit on J.P. Crawford. Now, in your traditional leagues, he is not probably worth drafting, right? In your 30-round leagues.
12-teamers,
especially. 12-teamers, especially. Yeah, you're probably not going to draft him. What I will sell you on is in your deeper formats, especially like your draft and holds, he is just going to accumulate. He's going to hit high. He's going to score a lot of runs, which is always an underrated statistic.
89 runs last year was his biggest ticket item. Yep.
And I think he, has the ability to maybe not completely repeat the batting average that we saw last year, but come darn close. 92% zone contact percentage for JP Crawford last year. Is pretty damn good.
Let me ask you something on that too, by the way. Just when you're looking at like StatCast stuff,
mm-hmm.
and you see the comically blue average exit velo, hard hit, all of that, but then you see a red max exit velo at 74th percentile. Do you ever think like, oh, that's just a lucky hit? Or do you think like, hey, maybe he's hinting at some better power?
I think it deserves more research, and thankfully I think thankfully there are people who are doing this research and trying to come up with leaderboards for 90th percentile exit velocity. So it's not max exit velocity. I want to see how often they get to the 90th percentile.
Yeah, because like you said, that max could just be one great hit.
It could be just one great hit, and so we don't want to overrate that. We also don't want to ignore that, because that is, what did Ron Chandler used to say, right? Like, once you show us skill, yeah, you own it. So he hits that, and then you go, okay, maybe there is some power in the bat. And we know that, having played fantasy for a long time and watched baseball for a long time, like Ichiro Suzuki was never known for power, but you go watch him hit batting practice, dude hit missiles and bombs. He just chose not to do that because it wasn't part of his game.
And it's not that, because I hear people say like, well, you're saying he could have hit 30 homers and he just chose not to. It's that he had some pop in his bat, but he would have had to completely change his game to get there. And he might have hit like 25 homers, but with like a 260 average. And he chose to be more of a high single digits, low double digit homer guy while hitting 330 instead.
Yeah. And I think JP Crawford is one of these guys who probably has a little bit more power in the bat than maybe we think, but his role is to get on base. It's to, walk. He walked 8.5% of the time last year. He's shown double digit walk rates in the past, and to make good contact and try to get on base, try to get on first base. So, there isn't much in terms of homers and RBIs. Like, we're looking at maybe like a 10 homer, 5 stolen base guy at best, really. But
perhaps 95 runs.
Yeah, a lot of runs. Maybe a decent-ish average, 260, 270. And a lot of plate appearances. And in draft and holds, you need lots of plate appearances.
Yeah. All right, last guy here, because you got to go. Miguel Rojas or Gio Urshela. You get to pick between the two. We're only talking about one of them.
You mean, Miguel Rojas or Urshela? I'm going to say Rojas. Just I'm a little wary of Urshela's injuries last year. I like Urshela better as an overall player. And I love that he's double eligible, but I'm a little afraid about him staying on the field at this point.
And I'm an Urshela guy, so I hear you on that totally. I see that front and center where I had him on and off my roster, and I actually missed some of his good stuff because he'd come back in the middle of the week and I couldn't get him in, and that was kind of annoying. Rojas is very Crawfordian in that if you want a guy who's just going to play every day, he's a team leader, he's a good shortstop, like he's going to play. They love him in Miami. He's going to play. He actually has a little bit more speed component, though, than Crawford. He had 13 last year, 5 in the shortened season, 9 in 2019, and his better batting average. So Miguel Rojas, he's boring, but like he's not a terrible middle or like a deep league play. I don't hate him there. Okay, so that's going to wrap up part 1. It is too deep to not do a part 2. We'll talk about the kids, the boring draftables, and then if there's any of the chaff that you care about there, we can get into that for the super deep leagues. But we'll do that on Tuesday. Justin, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We got First Pitch Florida online, and then tout drafts.
Labor drafts.
Oh, it is labor. Yeah. It was tout.
Touts at the end of the month. Yeah.
Touts at the end of the month, and labor mixed was a week ago. Okay. Yeah. So we got labor. I'm be in the NL. We'll talk about some of that, but have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Take it easy.